Give it up for our worship team. They did an amazing job leading us. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today and just worshiping with them. Didn't they do a great job? Come on. I love it. Hey, as we get started, we just had a good Thanksgiving weekend. Who ate way too much? Be honest. Who didn't eat enough pie? Hey, listen, so I got great news. I brought all my leftover pie and it's outside. So after service, you guys, no, but I'm being serious. We'll have pie after service. If you're over at Softer Sunday, we have pie for you as well. Just a way to celebrate, maybe give you a sweet tooth this morning. But I'm excited. I love pie. Who loves pumpkin pie? How about apple pie? Oh, it's kind of, you see, I love pumpkin pie. I can eat it any time of year. And I'm always upset that it only happens in October and November. My wife saw some pie in October and she bought it for me. How many of you guys know she loves me and just knows me? So we've been having pumpkin pie at my house since October and it's so good. But like I said, I get to share today and I'm excited. We're no longer in the one series. We'll have one more message on that next week. But I get to share today and really thinking about thankfulness. How many of you guys are just thankful for this last year? I love what God has been doing here at Helena First and through you guys. Maybe if you're online with us, let us know what you're thankful for on the chat. We'd love to hear from you. But, every year in November, we take a finish line offering. So we have partners and projects that we have. And this year, we pushed it back into December. So you're going to hear more about this finish line project or finish line offering that'll be going on December 15th and 19th. And I'm excited for what God is doing here in Helena and across the world and what we get to be a part of. So, and I want to remind us through that, you can give in our lobbies. You can give, if you text to give, you can do that as well. Or you can go to online, helenafirst.com, or use the Church Center app. But one of my favorite teams to be on here at this church is our teaching team. So we have a message team that gathers every Wednesday, and we get together and talk about our messages and kind of go over them. And it's so fun getting this group of people together from different places in life and really talk about Jesus and what the Word is really speaking to us. And as we practice our messages with them and get input from them, we really get to see God do amazing things. And really my heart would be that every time a message is preached, can I just be honest, we're looking for one person to take a step closer to Jesus. And really that's our heart behind it, that Jesus would be known through these messages and people would experience Jesus. And I love that because today really, as we talk about Thanksgiving and everything that's been going on in this last week, like I said, it's usually a time where we reflect on the last year, right? I'm so thankful for family. I'm so thankful for kids, for my kid. Maybe you're thankful for grandkids. Maybe you're thankful for your dogs. Maybe you're thankful for just living in Montana. Who's thankful for that? I know I am. I love living here. I love the weather. I love everything about this place. And it's just a time that maybe we think about everything that the blessings that we've had. But I'm a little different, if you haven't already known that. And I kind of like to reflect on the what ifs. And not in a negative way, but I think about things like, what if Dolores, who was a gal who took me to church for the first time, what if she didn't take me to church? What if she hadn't taken the risk to say, hey, David, if you're going to hang out with my son, every Friday we go to church. What if she hadn't done that? What would my life look like if she hadn't done that? Or maybe I look back and reflect on what if my youth pastor wouldn't have loved me as much as he did? Even when I was lying to him, saying that I couldn't go to church on Saturday night because I had to be home with my mom, and I actually wasn't home with my mom. I was just out and about. What if I didn't make that decision in my life to go to Bible college? That's a big what if in my life because I probably wouldn't have met my wife. I probably wouldn't be having Eli, our son. I probably wouldn't be here standing here today, but I reflect on that and I'm thankful that those what ifs are in my life because I get to reflect on God's guidance in that and really what God is doing in my life. A huge thing I'm thankful for, all the places that my family has lived in. Since we've been married since 2016, we lived in North and South Dakota. We've lived in Ireland, we lived in California. You saw how I skipped over that pretty quick. And we lived in Montana. And it's been fun to see what God is doing in our life in really the short amount of time that we've lived in all these different places, the people that we have met. Can I tell you, we have some of the most amazing people here at Helena First. Like, I am so thankful for them. Can we give it up? The people around you are just amazing. I hear story after story. So during Thanksgiving, of course, we look back at one of the major things in our life, and it's Jesus. Like, I am so thankful for what Jesus has done in my life. I am so thankful for just the opportunity that my families had to grow together in Jesus and what that really means for our family. Like, before Jesus, I don't know what my family would have looked like, and I don't even know where my family would be going. And now because Jesus is in our life, can I tell you, we don't have it all figured out. We're still trying to figure this all out. This whole parenting thing is tough. But I'm so thankful that we do have Jesus. And it's so fun to every night as we put Eli to bed to pray with him and hear him say amen at the end of our prayer. Like, I'm so thankful that Jesus is working in our life for our son to really experience the love of Jesus. I also think about the stories that are represented here today. I think about maybe addictions that have been broken. I think about families that have been restored. I think about prodigal sons that have come home. Like, this is amazing things that are going on here at Helena First. But can I tell you, like, let's celebrate those stories. Let's celebrate what God is doing in your life, because even after that story, there's still other stories being written in your life. Think about people that have invited people to church for the first time and have been an influential factor on other people coming to know Jesus. Like, you're a part of that story. And it's so fun to hear about. Actually, it reminds me what's written in Philippians chapter 1, verses 3 and 4. Paul's writing this, and he says this: I thank my God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for you all, I always pray with joy. I think about that, and as I hear stories, I get that same feeling. Like, I'm so thankful for the stories represented here today. I'm so thankful that I get to hear bits and pieces of people's stories. I might not be a part of every story. We might not all be a part of every story, but it still excites me to hear that God is moving through Helena, that God is changing people's lives, that people are experiencing Jesus and being led to life in Jesus. And I get excited, like, every time I pray for you guys, like, I get filled with joy. I feel like every time we hear stories of people rallying around a hurting friend, someone that maybe is just going through it, and people that have said, you know what, like, we get it. Life isn't easy, but we're going to be here for you. And maybe we share that love of Jesus for the first time with that person, or maybe it's the 100th time. How many guys know that it's so amazing to see God move in our friends' lives, in our families' lives? And can I cheer you on? It's so amazing seeing God move through you as you partner with people. I got to share some of this with my cousin. He was here for the first time, and we've talked about going after the one and praying for the one, and, you know, prayer at one, for one, for one. So for 1 minute at one for one person or two people. My one came to church 2 weeks ago, and it was my cousin Byron. He was the best man at my wedding. He's one of my closest friends. Not only is he my cousin, so I get to have my best friend as my cousin. And he got to come to church for the first time, and can I tell you, it was one of the most exciting things in my life. It was fun because he didn't have all the questions answered. He didn't understand why we were doing what we were doing. He loved being here at church, but it was weird for him. He hadn't been to church in a long time. And yet God began to stir in his heart questions. Like, we sat, and I'll share a little more about that, but we sat in what's known now as Melissa's office, my former office. We got to sit there and talk about why my life has changed so much. See, Byron's seen David from maybe not that little, but, you know, I was in middle school when we really began to get really close. And he is a little younger than me, and he got to see all these different changes in my life. And how many of you guys know it's fun to be able to share with someone Jesus has done in my life? Especially when it's someone that means so much to me like Byron. You know, I think about all the people that have been prayed for during this time, and I'm so excited for what God's going to do through your life as we continue to pray for that one. You know, maybe you don't know how we can continue. If you want resources on how to connect with more people or maybe help that person take their next step, let us know. We want to be able to resource you as much as we can, right? Maybe you don't have all the answers. Maybe they ask you a question about Jesus that you have no idea how to answer. How many of you guys have been there before? I know I have. Like, we want to help you through that. Doesn't mean we know everything, but we want to help you in that process. Because can I tell you, God is not done with your one. I heard this song the other day that says, if we're not dead, God's not done. And it really challenged me to think about the idea, stories are still being written in people's lives through you, through all of us, because we get to walk another day on this earth. So in Philippians chapter 6, I love this because it says, being confident of this, or chapter 1, verse 6, that he who began a good work in it, or began a good work in you, will carry on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Can I say it again? If you're not dead, God's not done. If you're not dead, God's not done. And sometimes that seems like really far out there. Like, David, I've been doing this for a while. Like, I need a break. Can I tell you, God is still working in whatever season you're in. Or maybe you just started this, like, what? God's already working some crazy things in my life. Can you imagine what more he has for you? Can you imagine the stories that are going to be written through your life and in the lives of others through you as you continue to grow in your life in Jesus, as you continue to grow as you're led to life in Jesus? I know a lot of the times we look back and we say, man, like this year has been tough. Like, David, you don't know, like there was a lot of things that I'm just asking God to take away instead of being thankful for. I want to encourage you again. God's not done. That story is not finished. That chapter in your life is not finished yet. Let God and trust God will continue to do and continue to complete what he's already started. Trust that God is not done yet. Trust that God has an amazing story to unfold in your life, even when things look a little chaotic. See, God will complete the good work he started. And maybe you're saying, David, but like, I get it. You're excited for Thanksgiving. I'm still like, how many of you guys love leftovers? I feel like they taste way better like 1 or 2 days after. It's so good. And you're thinking, David, like that's fun. It's fun to talk about Thanksgiving and everything that God has done last year. But I mean, it's going to be a whole nother year before we get to reflect on that. Can I tell you, we can still practice some things in this next year to help us live a thankful life, to help us live a life that represents what God has done in our own life, to help us live in a way that when people look back and look at us and maybe reflect on our own life, there's still something a little different about them. There's always something a little different about me, but can I tell you, there's something a little different in their life. What is it? And it'll give you the opportunity to maybe reflect on what Jesus has done for you. It'll help you maybe reflect on how God has got you through your Egypt, like we sang a little earlier. I don't know about you, but the realization that God has so many promises for us excites me. Well, here's one that I love. He promises to the Israelites, and how many of you guys know it's the same today as it was then? I'm going to say that again. It's the same today as it was then. God doesn't change because our circumstances change. God is still the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. And we get to hold on to those promises. Like he promised the Israelites in Deuteronomy chapter 6. It says this, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. So God is speaking to the Israelites as they had seen the promised land. They had seen all the giants that they might face. He said, hey, be strong, be courageous. Don't be afraid because of them. For the Lord your God will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. I don't know about you, but that is a promise I hang on to. Because when times get tough and life gets tough, I can hang on knowing that Jesus will not leave me. God will not forsake me. Every step of the way, he'll be walking with me. And no matter what's going on, I can hang on to that promise. No matter what's going on, I can know that God doesn't change just because David's throwing a pity party because he had a terrible week. God doesn't change because the way I thought things would pan out didn't. That doesn't change who God is. God is still the same. God will still be with us. And what I love about that is even in the craziest time, as the Israelites go into the promised land, they saw this amazing land that's theirs for the taking. And there's all these giants and all these things going on. Like God is telling them, hey, it's okay. Like I'm with you. I won't leave you. I won't desert you. Maybe you have giants in your life today. You're standing in here and saying, David, if you only knew, can I tell you? if you only knew what God is capable of. Man, I'm excited for my life. Like, I've shared this before, but in the story of my cousin, and I wanted to talk a little more about that. Byron is my best friend. Like, ever since, I can't remember a time of us not sharing a moment together, us not sharing a laugh together. But for the first time in a very long time, we got to share a serious moment that just happened just outside this room. As he stepped outside, and I kind of, we have like a brotherly bond, so I kind of tease him a lot. He does the same thing to me, so don't feel bad for him. And I remember as he stepped outside, I had given him a drink from our coffee house during worship, and I thought he might have spilled on himself because he had a little stain on his chest. I was like, hey man, what's that on your shirt? And he just looked at me, he goes, nothing. And I'm like, no, you actually have something on your shirt. I'm not trying to just bother you. He goes, yeah, I was crying in there. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, this was his words, this is why I don't like going to church, because I reflect on everything that I've gone through. And I ask, God, is this really what you wanted for me? How many know that's a really good place to be at? That is a really good place to be at. And I got excited, and I'm trying to talk to him, like, tell me more. That was the end of that conversation, because Byron realized quickly, like, I was trying to dig in a place he wasn't ready to share about. But that excites me. That gets me excited for what's yet to come in his life. We get to talk every single week. We talk about what God's doing in his life. And every single week after we end that conversation, I get to sit back and reflect with my wife. And I get to thank God for what he's doing in Byron's life. And I get to thank God for God not leaving him in the middle of his situation. Byron's a veteran. He's gone through a lot of things. He's seen a lot of things. I don't know the full stories, but there may be people in here that can relate. Can I tell you, that's not your full story. Maybe you've done things that you regret, like Byron did. Can I tell you, that doesn't define who you are. That doesn't define what God thinks about you, what God has for you. God has a bigger plan in your life, and all we need to do is say yes to Jesus and begin to walk that out. I love the story that God is writing through Byron's life, and I can't wait to see the day that we get to sit down and think about where God has brought him out of, where God is taking him. And maybe you're the same today. You're like, David, I'm in that same place. I don't know. Don't give up yet. Don't give up on what God has for you, because even in the middle of the storm, like we talked about in Deuteronomy chapter 6, or chapter 31, verse 6, he will never leave you nor forsake you. Even in the middle of the craziness, even in the middle of a thing called COVID, which I'm so over, God has not changed who he is. God is still the same, and we can hang on to that. So what now? Thanksgiving's past. Maybe this year you change the way you look into Thanksgiving, but that's not till next year. Like, what do we do now? Like, how can we act on this? That's a whole year out. I said this earlier, live a life that represents and shows how thankful you are. What does that look like for us? What does a life that represents the thankfulness of what we have in Jesus look like? I want to share a quick story that we find in Matthew chapter 6. So Matthew chapter 6, verse 27, it's a story of two blind men. It says this, as Jesus went on from there, two blind men followed him, calling out, have mercy on us, son of David. Goes on to verse 28 and says, when he had gone indoors, the blind men came to him and he asked them. So Jesus asked these blind men, do you believe that I am able to do this? Do you believe that I'm able to let you see again? Yes, Lord, they replied. Then he touched their eyes and said, according to your faith, let it be done. And check this out. I really want to point this out. And their sight was restored. Can we get an amen for that? Jesus restored their sight. And then look what Jesus said. Jesus warned them sternly, see that no one knows about this. I think this is kind of ironic. God just performed a crazy miracle in their life. They get to see, hey, don't let anyone know about this. Really, Jesus? We can see now. Maybe for the first time in our life, we can see now. How many of you guys ever have a really good plate of food and you love talking about it with people? Maybe it happened over Thanksgiving. You had some of the best. So my grandpa made a turkey for us years ago. And in a Puerto Rican household, we don't only just eat turkey. We tend to eat a lot of pork. So he had made this roast for us, and till this day, like my mouth is getting watery just talking about it. And I can remember him like seasoning it like 2 days prior and like him doing everything, and then he cut into it. Wow, I wasn't kidding about that. And us taking a bite of that and realizing, man, this is so good. I talked about it for days, it felt like, maybe even weeks. My mom's probably watching and say, here he goes again. But it was such a memorable time for me. How many of you guys know it's a lot like that in this story? Jesus does something amazing and says, hey, don't talk about it. But how many of you guys know that that's one way that we could express our thankfulness? Talking about what Jesus has done in our life. And I'm so guilty of this, so I'm just going to piggyback off of that story I just shared about my grandpa. I've talked more sometimes about my grandpa's turkey and pork than I have about what Jesus has done in my life. And how many of you guys know what Jesus has done in my life is so much bigger, so much better? Maybe you have that story in your own life of what Jesus has done in your life. Can I encourage you, that is so much bigger and better than any meal we could ever have on Thanksgiving. That deserves to be talked about way more than any meal we could ever have. Although that turkey was good, Jesus has been so much better. Jesus has done so much more for me. And I can't even begin to explain what Jesus has pulled me out of. And that's one way that we can live our life this whole next year. I want to challenge all of us. Let's live in a way that shows that thankfulness. And it starts off with just sharing about it. Like I said, I got to sit down with my cousin and talk about what Jesus has brought me out of. He sat down and looked at me and goes, man, what is so different about you? Like, you're not the same person that I used to hang out with in Florida. Can I say praise God for that? Because that person was not a good person. That person that person doesn't deserve to stand here today but Jesus. But what Jesus has done in my life, and you can relate, you have your own story. God has written a similar story, or maybe God is taking you out of some circumstances that are represented here today that are worth being shared about. Can I tell you, you never know what God is capable of doing through your story. I talk to my wife about this all the time, and she has a phenomenal testimony, an amazing story of God, like just wrapping his arms around her family. And since she was a little girl, like she can't remember a day without Jesus, without them going to church. Can I tell you, that is an amazing testimony. You don't need this radical transformation to see God's faithfulness in your life. How many of you guys know that God being with you every step of the way is his faithfulness in your life? And I love hearing that story. What is your story? Maybe take time, maybe you've never done this, like reflect on your story. Reflect on it and take an opportunity to share it with someone that's never heard your story. Maybe they've always asked you what's so different about you. Take that time to share that story, to talk about what God is doing in your life. Because you never know what God is capable of doing. When is the last time you expressed thankfulness for someone? Think about that for a second. When is the last time you said, man, I'm so thankful for you in my life? And we do this a lot during Thanksgiving, right? Like we maybe text our mom or our dad or our kids and say, I am so thankful for you. Like, I am so glad you're in my life. But outside of that, when's the last time we expressed thankfulness to someone? I am terrible at this. Can I be honest? Like I am, which is funny because my love language, I just found this out. I took the test again just to make sure I was all right. My very first one is words of affirmation, right? So I love being told like, hey, you're doing a great job, or I love being just affirmed through words. And I am the worst at doing this for other people. My wife reminds me of that every day. No, I really am. Like I just get too busy and I don't share it. And I had to take time this week to reflect on people in my life that it means so much to me. I think about my wife, the amazing job she's doing at raising our son at home. I'm thankful for her every single day. And I'm not just doing that for brownie points. Trust me, I've got a lot to make up there, but I'm thankful for her, and we just don't share it enough. We're quick to share what we need, but we're so slow to share what we're thankful for. I want to lead by example, so can I take a quick moment and just talk about some people in my life that I'm thankful for? Maybe you can relate to this. How many of you guys are thankful for Pastor Paul today? Can we give it up for Pastor Paul? I am so thankful for the leadership that he has on my life and the way that he's led, especially in the last year and a half, but just everything that he's done, not just for this church, not just for his family, but just in general. I'm thankful for Pastor Paul. Maybe you guys know Pastor Doug. How many of you guys are thankful for Pastor Doug? That's another person. Hey, listen, he has so much wisdom. His white hair isn't just that way. Like, he has so much wisdom, and I am so thankful for his wisdom in my life. I'm so thankful at the way that he leads as well, the way that he just helps me through situations. In the year and a half that I've been here, I've gone so many times with Pastor Doug. Doug, I don't know what to do here. I need your help. Can you shed some wisdom into this? And there's so many stories with our staff about Pastor Doug that way, that he just shares such wisdom. Think about Pastor Joey and the way he leads our youth and our family ministries. Can I tell you, I'm so thankful for the way that he leads his family. The way that he's shared that example with my family, like how to lead your family in a way that you're all being led to life in Jesus. I love that about him, and it absolutely grips my heart. And every time I see his family, I'm just so thankful for them. Here's someone you guys can also relate with. How many of you guys are thankful for Carlos? I am so thankful for that guy. I'm so thankful for the way that he leads worship, because it is so genuine. Can I tell you, sometimes I'm challenged. Like, if I get a drop of sweat on my face worshiping, I know I'm doing a good job. Like, I am thankful for that, because Carlos has led the way in just genuine worship. He puts God before a lot of things, before most of the, can I just be honest, he puts God in front of everything in his life. And it's really challenged me and gripped me to just catch that passion to worship that he has. Because a lot of the times, if I'm being honest, we let our circumstances dictate our worship. I had a rough week, man. Like, yeah, God, you're good, but this week was tough. Can I tell you, that's when Carlos is up here on stage worshiping the hardest, because he knows what God is capable of. And I love that about him. Here's another person that we all benefit from, Joe upstairs in the booth. Actually, he's on a camera today. Can we give it up for Joe? I am so thankful for the servant's heart that he has. There is not one thing in this place that Joe can't do. Sometimes we got to protect him from saying yes to everything, but can I tell you, the way that Joe leads with a servant heart challenges me every time, because he represents Jesus so well. Jesus came to serve and not be served, and that's Joe to the T. I love being part of his team. I love working with him. Not only do we work together, but we're also really good friends, and I love being able to spend time with Joe and just see his servant's heart, because it always challenges me. And maybe you're thinking, David, why are you sharing about all those people? Like, can we encourage one another? In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 11, it says this: therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as the fact that you're doing. So he's talking to a church here who they've already been doing this, right? Like they've already been building each other up. And yeah, he's talking about building each other up in the faith, right? Like, encourage one another to continue in your faith. But can I take it a step further? Let's encourage each other in life, because life gets hard. There's people that you know right now that aren't here because they had a terrible week, that they really might not have anything to be thankful for this year. But can I tell you, they have life. They have breath in their lungs. And we should encourage one another to continue to fight the good fight. It gets hard sometimes. I'd be the first to say, it gets tough. Life can be hard. Maybe you've had some circumstances that happened this week. Keep fighting. Keep going after it. Keep chasing after God, and watch what God might do in your life or in their life as we encourage one another. I want to do a quick shout out. All the parents represented in here today, you guys are doing an amazing job. Maybe you don't hear this enough. Maybe you're online and you're doing an amazing job with your kids. I know it's hard. Sometimes you want to drag them out the door to get to church, but can I tell you, keep it up. You're doing an amazing. Can we give it up for all the parents? And maybe you're in here today and you're saying, man, I just can't relate. I'm not a parent. Can I tell you, there are people in your life that look up to you. The way that you handle situations, the way that you walk life out, keep it up. Don't stop doing good. Don't get weary of doing good. Don't get tired of doing good, because can I tell you, you're representing Jesus to people all over this state, all over the world, as you continue to walk out what Jesus has for you. But parents, don't give up. And if you're in here today and you know a parent, maybe they had a rough week, the holidays can be a tough time as a parent. Maybe you reflect, I wish this year was just a little bit better. Maybe I wish I would have done this instead of that. Do not give up. Continue to live your life the way that God has intended it to. And I want to take another second and give a shout out to just our church. Can I tell you guys, we talked about this finish line offering. Your generosity has just blown me away. The way that you guys are so generous with the resources that God has given you. Like, God is writing some amazing stories through your time, through your finances, through your life. And I just want to take a second and applaud you guys. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you so much for the way that you lead people to life in Jesus with your resources. And I can't explain how much it means to me to be a part of a church that is so generous. You talk about generosity. Look at this amazing venue that we have put together. How many of you guys are thankful for Christmas and the decorations that we've been able to put up? Every year, Lene, Terry, and Charmaine come into this place and literally dedicate a whole week of their lives to decorate this place. And I'm so thankful because it goes beyond just Helena First benefiting from this. People in this community come in. Can't tell you how many people we had last year as COVID shut everything down, come into this place to take family pictures. They didn't have family pictures yet. People come in to just see the amazing job that these ladies do. And can we give it up for them one more time? Because, and I tell you, a lot of work and a lot of hard work goes unseen, and we get to reap the benefits of this beauty, but it doesn't go without a sacrifice of their time with their family that they could be spending with their family. They put their hard work into this. So today, as we get ready to wrap up here, I want to ask you, what's next? Maybe you're thankful for Jesus. Maybe I've been talking about Jesus this whole time and you're like, I don't understand what to be thankful for. The life that we have because of him. And if you're not there yet, I'd love to invite you into that. So I'm going to lead us in a prayer in a little bit. And I'd love for you, if you've never taken that step, to take that step to say yes to Jesus and watch what he would do in your life. Watch what God would lead you and your family in. Can we just be thankful that God hasn't abandoned us yet? And he never will. Can we just be thankful for that? Like, Jesus, God, we are thankful that in the storm, you are still working. I am thankful that my story isn't done yet. And finally, I want to give us an action to do before this week is done, or as this week starts. Take some time this week and encourage someone. And be specific about it. I took time with the worship team this morning and went around and said, hey man, I'm thankful for you guys. And not just for just to say it, man, David, I told him the way that he leads on the keys, but more importantly, the way that he leads in his life. I'm thankful for that. It's an example for me. I talked about Carlos already, but I'm so thankful the way that he worships and leads our team. Be specific with that person, because that could be the encouragement they need just to get past that next day. So can we stand together one last time? And I want to pray for you. If you're in here today and you want to be thankful for Jesus and you want to experience that love in your life, I would ask you just to take a second. God, we thank you today that we have Jesus. We thank you that we can be encouraged. God, we thank you for what he's done in our life. And I pray right now, God, that you would just help us take a step further, a step closer to him. So if you're in here today, I would pray that you would just take that step to be led closer to Jesus. Maybe you don't know what that means. It just means to put your faith in Jesus. And God, we do that today. We put our faith in you. We take a step closer to you, Jesus. We might not have all the answers, but we serve a God who does and who will help us along the way. And God, I thank you for this congregation. I thank you for the people represented here and online. God, I pray that they would be encouraged. God, that you would speak to them, that you would move on their behalf to continue to write the story that you've started. God, we thank you and we worship you. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Aren't you guys thankful for what Jesus is doing? Hey, let's worship one last time. And if you decide to follow Jesus, would you text follow to 94,000? Or better yet, if you see someone with a red lanyard out in the lobby, we'd love to connect with you and help you through your next steps. Have a great evening or week.